I love to open with something that's a little humorous because I believe joy and laughter really just uplifts us. So Johnny is a very bright 5-year-old, and he told his daddy he'd like to have a baby brother. And along with this request, he offered to do whatever he could to help. His dad, a very bright 35-year-old, paused for a moment and then replied, "I'll tell you what, Johnny, if you pray every day for 2 months for a baby brother, I guarantee you that God will give you one." So Johnny responded eagerly to his dad's challenge and went to his bedroom early that night and to start to pray for a baby brother. And so he prayed every night for a full month. He was praying for a baby brother. But after a month, he began to get a little skeptical. He checked around the neighborhood and found out that what he thought was going to happen had never really occurred in the history of the neighborhood. You don't just pray for 2 months and then, whammo, you have a baby brother. So Johnny quit praying. Well, after a month, Johnny's mother went to the hospital. And when she came back, Johnny's parents called him into her bedroom, and he cautiously walked into the room and not expecting anything at first, and there was a little bundle lying right next to his mother. His dad pulled back the blanket, and there was not one, but 2 baby boys. She had had twins. Johnny's dad looked at him and said, "Now, aren't you glad you prayed?" And Johnny thought for a moment and hesitated a little and then looked up at his dad and said, "Yes, but aren't you glad I quit when I did?" So today I have the honor of introducing Marcia Marchant. She is a doula, a end-of-life doula. She is doing a talk entitled "Mysteries of Death and Dying." And Marcia has had the gift of witnessing the miracle of birth as a labor doula and the miracle of death and rebirth as the end-of-life doula. Her father was one of her greatest teachers in life. She says, however, it was through his process of transitioning, I felt he slowed every step, every breath, maybe to hold on longer, but I get a sense that he was teaching me one of the greatest gifts. My gift of service to others. Prior to his passing, I became a volunteer of hospice and thinking one day I may need this knowledge should one of my parents pass. So funny how the universe knows what to put in front of us. Time changes all things in life. I find myself, she says, in a beautiful space that allows me to do what I love best. To be of service to others during the miracles and mysteries in the circle and cycle of life. So I want to introduce you to Marcia. And Marcia, thank you for being, and give her a warm hand. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. Okay. Thank you, everybody. It's a beautiful sunny Sunday day, and you take time out of your schedule to come and sit with us. I'm completely honored and completely overwhelmed with pride. Ms. Violet Flipwoods, my dear friend, had asked me to be a guest speaker here today. We've known each other in our circle of light and of love for many years, and I'm just very, very grateful. Thank you. So as the Reverend had said, I did become an end-of-life doula through the process of hospice. And I'm guided by Spirit, for those that know me or don't or will know me now, that I am very intuitive, and I'm guided by Spirit in the process and what I do in life. And that was first to become a labor doula, and then during my years of being a doula, I was thinking, wow, wouldn't it be nice to exit souls to the other side beyond the veil? And my sister-in-law, now retired, well into her 70s, had called me one day out of the blue and had asked Marcia, "Have you heard of a death midwife?" "No." And she goes, "I'll leave it with you." And here it begins. So I ended up taking a course through conscious dying in Florida with this beautiful Taryn and her team, and I've never looked back. So I'm just going to open up a little bit with a prayer, with a poem that came to me the other day. My good friend had moved to Ottawa, and his brother, out of the blue, went into cardiac arrest. Now, prior to his passing or his cardiac arrest, I had a dream that John and I were sitting knee to knee, elbows on our knee, holding hands, and I fully believe that our dreams, as we call it, are spiritual encounters when our two souls meet in dream time. And I knew something was going to happen. I didn't know exactly what, but I was kind of thinking death, because he was dressed in a black button-down long-sleeve shirt and his dress coat. And I knew anytime John brought out his dress coat, there's a ceremony or of something. And I really thought it would be his mom's passing. She's well into her 80s. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. It was his youngest brother, Ronnie. Ronnie was single. He had no plan, no will, no gifts, nothing ready for his death. Within 72 hours of cardiac arrest, they pronounced him. So now we're left with this, what do we do next? So as we know, when universe presents itself, I came by a poem by David Harkins, and it's called He Is Gone. But I tweaked it just a little bit because I don't want to use it just as he. You can shed a tear that they are gone, or you can smile because they lived. You can close your eyes and see all that they left back, you can close your eyes and pray that they will come back, or you can open your eyes and see all that they left behind through love. Your heart can be empty because we can't see them, but yet we can be full of love and life and all the memories in which they shared. You can remember only that they're gone, or you can cherish every memory and let it live on. You can cry and close your mind and empty your heart and turn your back, or you can do what they want, that you know they want you to do, is to smile, to open your eyes, open your heart, and live, laugh, love, and go on. We have all experienced a loss of some sort, a pet, a parent, a nephew, a niece, God forbid, a job, a marriage, and how do we navigate through that grief? When we were younger, as a family of 13, we often would think, where do you go when you die? We went to Bible school. Is it just a hole in the ground, in a box? What happens next? What happens to the body? What happens to the soul? We didn't know about souls then as a wee one. We just knew you died and you went in a box. When we did speeches for school, I chose to speak on euthanasia and reincarnation. So at a young age, I was already aware there was something more, something greater than just this hole in the ground and a box. And when we would ask the questions, where did Auntie go? Where did Grandma go? Where did Grandpa go? Where did they go after they go in the hole in the box? Hush. You don't talk of such things. Mom, what happens? What do you want when you die? We plan for our birthdays. We plan for our births. We plan for our celebrations, our weddings. Oh my gosh, hours, years, planning all these things that we meet in life as we walk this journey. But we never plan what happens before we die or when we die. Mr. Ron, the gentleman that just passed, he didn't have a plan. He didn't have a DNR. He had nothing that his family could go on. And we hear so many stories because Dad didn't tell us, Mom didn't tell us. Dad said he wanted this. No, she didn't. He wanted this. Now the families divide. So it is so important that we have these conversations of what do you want? You go to a restaurant, you know you don't want mushrooms on your steak. You know when you go to the hairdresser, you don't want that cut. We know adamantly of all the things that we don't want, but we never discuss what we want. So I have two beautiful ladies here from Family First, and if you have any questions, you can speak with Jillian or Heather on life planning. What happens if? My niece, one morning my nephew found her on the floor. 43 years old, no will, no plan, no nothing. So how does a mom or a family navigate through that process of loss? Are they an organ donor? Do they want to be cremated? Do they want to? I attended a funeral of this beautiful lady that had passed in hospice, and when I went to the funeral, she had this cardboard box, and it was white. And she left crayons and paints and pencils and markers, and everybody said their goodbye and painted pictures and handprints of her grandchildren on her casket when she left, and she was going to be cremated. But man, when you walked in, what did you see? You didn't see all these array of flowers. You've seen this beautiful artwork that she wanted, and that is also a memory that she left behind. So the toughest, because we never want to lose a parent, we never want to lose someone that we love, the toughest that we can do is have those conversations. When my dad was passing, we're a blended family of gazillions of kids and people. And because we are a blended family, he said, I want everybody to come to the table, and we're going to have dinner. I have a brother in Georgia, I have a sister in Chatham, I have a cousin over here, and we all came together because we had that conversation. Dad wants. And you, sorry, you, when you go, you can have this. When I go, you can take that. When I go, this stays with Mother. So when he passed, the family didn't divide. We knew exactly what he wanted. We knew exactly where things were. My mom, my stepmom, after he passed, she went into a retirement living. One morning she gets up to go to the bathroom, heart attack on the toilet, she's done. And she had said to me, Marcia, when I go, I want you to play On the Wings of an Angel at my funeral. My dad was a huge bluegrass fan. So in the springtime, they were both cremated. We were going to do our service. And I said to my stepbrothers and to my family, Dad wanted some music, and Nana wanted this On the Wings of an Angel played, or Winds Beneath My Wings. And both of her sons said, well, I never heard that. She never told me that. Well, honest to goodness, she told me that. So if you guys are all in agreement, I'm going to play this music for both of them. And then my phone lit up, and here we go. So had I walked away, and it's not about me, and not have played that request, I would just feel terrible because I didn't see that through for them. The little things that they asked us to do, I did. We did. As a family, we did. And it's hard because every day is not the same after you lose somebody. But the importance here of this conversation is, what do you do before you pass? What if you become diagnosed with a terminal illness, a life-changing, altering illness that you can't? Or God forbid, you're in an accident, now you're in a coma, and we have to make those hard decisions. No DNR. This is my book to my son. No DNR. What happens when I go, and I'm on my next adventure. I want to have a life celebration, Kiwanis Park. I want to have a small table in front of the tree with my ashes on it. And I want my cauldron. I want my pointed hat. I want my drum that I made with this beautiful patty. I want all these things that represent who I am. So nobody guesses. This weird one, Marcia, that I've been called my entire life, is having her last celebration, and it's going to be at Kiwanis Park. It's a beautiful place. I have my most favorite songs listed, just like we do for a wedding. I'm going to have my wedding here. This is the catering. This is my music. This is the color of my flowers. This is the color of my dress. I've got my music ready. I've got some of my life insurance policies in here. So when it's time for me to go, which is really going to be hard for my RJ and my Aaron and my grandchildren, they don't have to do this. It should be already ready, you know? All they have to do is walk in. That's it. You know, take a toast, pint of beer, and just let it be. Because there's no guessing, no family dividing. My sisters, my brothers, everybody knows exactly what Marcia wants. And they've called me controlling before. This is where I'm controlling. Because this is exactly what I want. So on those hard questions, those hard conversations that you have with your families, mom, dad, we don't talk about those things. Hush, you're going to jinx me. No, I need to know. We need to know. And we need to know as a family unit, so there's no divide in the end. Any life planning, end-of-life planning that you have, I understand through Families First that there's booklets that you can obtain, and they'll go through it with you. And whether it's, and no offense, but whether it's with, Gerald Smith out in Harrow, or Family First in here, or Skies in Essex, or Kingsville, or Reeds in Leamington, wherever they're located. My dad passed at home. I do hospice volunteer. I'm a medical receptionist and a medical assistant. And we hear stories of individuals that didn't make it to hospice. We hear stories that wanted to pass at home. It's hard work. Trust me, it's a lot of work. But man, it's the greatest reward to take care of a loved one at their end of life. And that's my story. I want to thank you guys. Does anybody have any questions? Yes? I'm sorry, I can't.
Have you had an experience where somebody passed away and then after maybe 15, 20 minutes or so they came back to life?
Not me directly. I've certainly heard those stories, that people have come back. Like this young man, young, he was 53, I think, 58. They tried to work on him for 45 minutes. And he did come back and out again and in and out, in and out. But unfortunately, on the last in, there was no activity at all for him. But yes, I have heard those stories. Thank you. I just want to share a dream also. When I talk about being intuitive, prior to my dad passing, he was terrified. I have to say, the biggest, strongest man I ever knew in my life was terrified. And the intuitive work that I do, the shaman work that I do, the meditation, the Reiki, and all these wonderful modalities that I've been gifted with from above, I said to him, Dad, I promise you, if I can walk you to the gate, I will do that. And his eyebrow went up like, right. I had a dream, maybe he passed in November. I had a dream in August that he and I were walking in this blacktop parking lot. And it just rained. There was just wee bit of puddles on the ground. He was very unsteady on his feet, and he'd lost his voice. And I'm walking with him. I'll watch out for the step this time. I was walking with him, and I kind of went like this over a puddle. And he gave me the look, that dad's look. And I went, sorry, Dad. And he said, I gotta pee. He said, I have to pee. No voice. So I'm going, oh my God, we're in the middle of nowhere. Where are we going to go find a toilet? So down the way, there's a big block white building made out of big cinder blocks. I'm thinking, well, that's pretty weird for a warehouse to be out here in the middle of nothing. And I get to the door, and it's got this big arched almond-colored door like you would see on a castle. Black iron rods, the hinges, the handles. It was weathered with time, high shellac. And I'm thinking, well, that's really strange to have on the end of a warehouse door. I opened the door, and within this much space, there was another door identical. And I pushed that door open, and I said, okay, Dad, right there's a light. Go that way. I'm sure there's a toilet. Let me know if you need any help, because I'm going in to find, not only to find you, but I'm also going to go in to make sure somebody tends to you, because he said stay out here. I've been abolished from that man a few times when I was trying to take care of him, because I was a little controlling. And I cared for his safety and his well-being. So I'm waiting in the parking lot, and I'm talking to somebody. I have no idea who I'm speaking with. And I'm looking at my clock thinking, geez, he's been in there for a long time. He's really been in there. Is he okay? Did he go pee? Did he fall? Because he's very unsteady on his feet. I open the door, and he's standing between the two doors. And I'm going, oh my God, he's never gone pee yet. So I said, Dad, are you okay? And I push the door, and he grabs my hand, and he tells me, I don't have to go yet. So I know fully, as I got goosebumps everywhere, I know fully that I walked that man to the gate. And when he was ready to go, he knew how to get there. When people are passing, and in hospital and hospice, when they start to have hallucinations, I witnessed my dad shake people's hands. His mouth was constantly going, making amends with those that he needed to tend to before he passed. It's not a hallucination. It's an encounter. Your soul and your spirit is already speaking to another soul and spirit, whether still in their earthly being or they're already on the other side waiting for your arrival. When we have a birth, we're all excited. Is it a boy or a girl? When they're here, yay, she had the baby. I was told by a very wise elderly fella, when we're grieving on this side the loss of a loved one as we wait for them to transition beyond the veil, he said beyond the veil is the other side going, yay, he arrived. And it's a happy birthday celebration. And here we go. And in dream time, I seen my father go into his celebration. So be open, ask the questions. Trust what the divine universe, Lord, Lady, Creator, breath maker, whatever you want to call that universal of love and light, trust it. Have those hard conversations. Make sure your T's are crossed and I's are dotted. So your families and loved ones are not left with, what does Ronnie want? There was no DNR, there was no will, there was no plan, there was no, now they have to muffle through this and navigate through another tremendous loss. Thank you. I'm sorry, any other questions? Yes, Violet.
Any other questions? We've got a microphone here.
Marcia, can you give some comment of how to work with children, preparing them for loss?
Well, I understand children, in their first 6 years, 0 to 6 years, they're very connected to the other side. You know? They'll talk to their imaginary friends. My son had 3. My granddaughter had 2. I've never called my dad Papa, because he's just in a picture, because we call my ex-husband Papa, and I didn't want to confuse her. She came to my house one day, and she reaches out and she goes, Papa, and that's the picture. So I understand when we talk about loss, and we talk about life, I used the experiment of a plant with my granddaughter. She's 3. But here's this beautiful seed, and it's planted and it's growing. Now all of a sudden, it's not. And where does it go? My nieces, we had a bird that we found along the way in the forest, and it wasn't going to make it. And they were about 7 or 8. And we talked about life, and we talked about preparing. We did a ritual. We did the flower mandalas for them, for this bird, and put this little bird in a beautiful cloth, and we covered it with light and love and leaves and all these things. And we talked about, this bird has their own wings, and they are able to still continue to soar beyond life, beyond this earthly plane. It is hard to get the children to understand, because they're only going to grasp this much of it. You know? When our whole life is this much of falling apart, they only have this little bit. So we talk about star people, I don't want to say star people, but we talk about stars and star people. And we talk about what happens when we go to the other side. We're in the wind, and here comes the cardinals and the messages and the little feathers. And we talk about how do we connect with that and still know that Papa, Nana, Auntie, sibling, is still alive and well in another being. Is that good? Thank you. Thank you. It is. It is. And I do have some information at my table. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, sorry.
I was just wondering, I understand what a birth doula is,
Mm-hmm.
and that she attends the birth and assists. A birth doula assists the mother in giving birth. A death doula, do you provide that service to families?
I
even
do.
in home?
Yeah.
If they're not in hospice?
Yes, I
To
do.
help that person?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very much the same as a birth doula.
Okay.
Right? First off, we make sure when you go into a birth doula, you make sure you have your birthing plan of things that I want, things that I don't want, things that I need, things I feel I need. I don't want an epidural, I don't want this, I don't want, but I want. So the same thing is with an end-of-life doula. As we watch them transition from, and it's almost like their body is already full birth, and they're going back to the seed, or the egg. And the baby starts as an egg and comes into full term. So it's the same thing. And I do sit there, you do your vigils. You talk about getting your plans, your end-of-life plan prepared. We talk with the families and who's still in denial, because there's a lot of individuals that are in denial. Mom's not dying, Dad's not dying, he's not going anywhere. But just in case he does, or just in case when they do, let's have these conversations. I witnessed a lady pass at hospice, and her husband and her daughter were in the room. The nurse came in and started bathing the body. And in my mind, I'm screaming, no, the husband and the child should be bathing this body. They should be preparing, because it helps with closure as well, right? So if you want soft music, or you want a certain nightgown, or, whatever, I cannot go to a doctor and say, oh, Betty really doesn't want that. But I can say to John, John, I did speak with your mom, and she said she would really prefer to have this instead of that. Oh, yeah, Mom said, so it's just those little guiding edges that we're able to bring these people to speak, because we don't want to go against a doctor's knowledge. We don't want to go through our auntie or our dad's hierarchy, because Dad says this is what Mom wants. We can't question it. We have to do that. But Mom really told me this is what she really likes. So I just encourage those conversations, And I do ask that question. I was banned from a room in hospice, actually, because the patient asked me, am I dying? And I said, yes. And the wife grabbed his arm and she said, you're not dying today, John, you're not dying today. And because I had that conversation, I was banned from the room. And that's okay. That is okay. And I honestly, I knew this family. But I could not say, sorry, you're not. When he knows, everybody knows, I understand, we know when it comes to end of life, that we're at end of life, and we understand that. Maybe not through Ronnie's cardiac arrest, he didn't know that. But when we come with our ill-changing life, altering disease, then yes, we know that the end is near, right? So we guide them that way, gently, And I do ask that question, what do you think heaven looks like? Or what do you think death looks like? Or what do you think the gate looks like? Or what do you think that looks like to you? And if it's a little bit rickety and it's a little bit scared, or it's a little bit, I had an experience with a lady at her home, and she was afraid to go. She wasn't sure what she was going to step into. And I said, what if you just left these earthly slippers here, and you stepped into the slippers or not, and you just step into something as beautiful as this, which was her backyard garden? What if that looks like that for you? And that brought her so much peace. There was less fear. At least in this category of it, there was less fear. Yeah. I'll just quickly share. I had a friend that was from Costa Rica, and his dad passed. And this story was told to me years ago, that when nobody tended to his dad after he passed. This child lived here in Canada. He flew home to Costa Rica, and his dad was on a table, and nobody tended to him, and it was hot, and it was awful, and it was just imaginary awful. I won't go into detail. But he said, I had to wash my dad. I had to undress my dad. I had to wash him. I had to prepare him for his service. And he said, it was awful. And I said, are you kidding me? I'm sorry you had to experience that. But this is what we do in Canada. The body is whisked away. They drain it. They fill it. They do this. They do this. And then a couple of days later, here's this body that doesn't even look like my dad. And now all of a sudden, and he's got a shirt on that no longer fits. I said, no, I think everybody should tend to their families. I think the bathing should be done. I think the hand lotion, rub their feet when they pass. It brings closure. And man, what a gift to give to an individual that has passed. And you're tending to that body, not some stranger that, you might have met him a couple of times at, the grocery store or at church, and you just know him by the name of Joe, and he owns a funeral home. I think everybody should do it. I think everybody should have, even a fear. My sister came into the house, the baby, and she was just bawling her eyes out. I said, get over here, get over here. Here's some lotion. Dad needs lotion on his feet. Do his ankles and his feet. I can't. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And just by doing that little bit was a huge shift for her. It didn't change the fact Dad was leaving, but it was a change indeed. Yeah. Any questions again?
Yes.
When my children's father died, my son Daryl actually shaved him in Shannon, and it was good for them.
Yeah.
And they still talk about that.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
How do you find, like, with the people that are passing, transitioning, are they afraid? Is that what you're mostly seeing, or is it the family that's really afraid? Like,
I
is
think
there
it's a balance of both. really.
There is fear, though. They have this
Yeah.
fear of moving over.
Some, I can't say everybody, but there is a percentage that are. Like I said, my father was terrified to pass. This one lady that I met in her home was terrified to go. Some people in hospice, we do vigils, with them, and we stay with them as, throughout the night up until the point they do pass. Some of them are afraid, and we encourage them, go to the light. It is going to be okay,
Or is there people that, like, get excited about it? Like, I'm out of here?
I am. I am. I want to know who painted all this beautiful stuff that surrounds me. And then, truth be told, sorry guys, we're talking about a period, who started that idea? At a young age. So that's my humor. But yeah, there is, and the families are, of course, we're all afraid. What's going to happen to the family now that mom's not at the head of the table, or dad's not at the head, or auntie, or they don't come home from work one day? Of course, we're all afraid. How do we navigate through that? As we have survivors of that, how do we navigate through that loss?
Well, thank you for what you do. Because
Thank you.
Anyone else? Questions?
Okay?
Yes.
Hey, Marcia,
Hey, Betty.
I really like the idea how when you're planning it, and then you're sharing with your kids or whoever, but it already starts in motion for them that this is what's happening.
Yes.
As well as if you say, this is going to go to here, this is what I want done with my stuff.
Yeah.
Because there's years of arguments afterward and pain
Yeah.
from each other
Yes.
from people doing things they shouldn't at that time,
Yeah.
when that could just be taken care of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely. And as you know, we've all heard many of those stories, Well, I haven't talked to my sister since my dad passed, like, holy schmolies. Because of, I agree. Get it, dollar store book, pamphlets from these young, beautiful ladies have brought end-of-life planning booklets, set something up. And even if you just give it to them one day, here, I'm giving this to you because I want you to know, and then have those conversations started, And if they don't ask those questions, at least they've got food for thought on what's going to happen when. Yeah.
Any other questions? And would you like, you're with both of you are with the First Families, right? Would you like to say something?
I just wanted to mention about the personal planning guides. Can you hear me?
Yep, stand up.
Oh, stand up?
Yep.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name's Heather. I am from Families First, and this is my sister, Jillian. Thank you for inviting us here today.
Thank you.
So we do have what's called the Personal Planning Guide. It's a complimentary book where you can record all of the information that Marcia is talking about today. So if anyone would like one of those, you can either contact her or you can contact us, and we'll make sure we bring one to you. Okay?
Thank you.
I like what you're talking about, what you're doing, because I do find it's helpful for a lot of people when you want to start looking at putting some of these things in place. That book is beautiful. That's such a nice idea because it gives pictures and it actually shows your family, like, this is what it looks and feels like here, and this is what I would like it to feel like. It helps to kind of take some steps to look into that and decide for yourself what you'd like and start putting it together, and then go to your family and go to your kids and go to people and say, this is what I'm thinking. Is there anything that you would like to add to it or take away, that kind of thing? But it's nice to get kind of like some of it down for yourself first.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when people go, oh, I want to start, look, the kids are like, don't even think about death. We're not going to worry about that. Like, we'll take care of it when you pass away. You don't have to worry about it. And then sometimes things get put off. So it helps if you've already put a bunch of it together, like that book, and you sit down with your family and you say, these are my wishes. Is there anything that you would like added to it? Or is there anything you would like to see? And you can kind of have that conversation. But that's wonderful, that book. That's
Thank
really
you.
cool. Yeah.
Thank you.
That was wonderful.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
I also forgot to mention organ donating. If you're an organ donor, what are you able to give? if you are able to do this. I know it's hard for some people to see that their loved ones' bits and pieces are taken, because we want a whole body, a whole soul, a whole to go when we return to universe. But if you're able to donate, I'm a donor, anything, I don't care. Whatever anybody else can need, take it. I'm done with it. My earthly body is done with it. But that's also part of in my book, and I didn't mention it, but what does my care want if I'm diagnosed? I was already breast cancer, double mastectomy back in 2016. So if it returns again, then what do I want? Where do I want? What kind of medication do I want? What kind of care do I want? It's endless, this conversation, right? But it just takes a little bit to start it in order for it to grow. And if I honestly say, if I love my children more than I love anything, as we all do, why am I going to leave them with that? Without the knowing, without the knowledge, and see them struggle and navigate through something that could have been easily taken care of in conversation. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm honored. Thank you so much. Violet, thank you so much for asking me to be part of this. Everybody, the team that put this together, thank you so very much. And thank you guys for taking time out of your Sunday to be here with me. I appreciate it.
And thank you. Thank you,
you.
Marcia. Give her a
you very
hand.
much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank y'all for being here.
Thank you.
Oh, so we